Hello, this is David Greenwood of Your Life in the Now, where we help you to go within and change old programming, old conditioning in your subconscious that might be keeping you from living the life that you truly deserve and desire. Now, the first step that we always take is creating a healthy self, which means creating a healthier subconscious mind, a healthier ego. And with that healthier ego, you find you have more and more the ability to resolve old emotional issues that have been there for a long time that are influencing not only relationships, but also everything in your daily life. And with that healthier mind and those healthier emotional natures, you now find that you're able to enjoy what I call practical spirituality. Now, somebody the other day said, well, what do you mean by practical spirituality? Those seem to be an oxymoron that don't seem to fit together. To me, spirituality is being at your best, at a heightened state of awareness without that subconscious mind, that conditioned mind telling you how things are supposed to be without those fears, those worries, which is what we call living life in the now, in the moment, enjoying the life that is, as we talked about, bringing forth your authentic self. Now, if this is of interest to you, you're going to find that I do offer programs for people either in my office here in Bellevue or in other places around the world. I even have some clients in other parts of the world. And we do them by phone, by Zoom, which is a video conferencing. And you can do some of the programs that way. I'm also coming out with an online program that will be out soon. If those are of interest to you, there's more information in the description below. But today we want to explore how to create healthy, passionate relationships. And you're going to find that the guardian absolutely influences those relationships and not always in a healthy way. So take a few moments and just, as we're going through this, do some inner exploration. And we're going to ask you to be aware of what's blocking you. What could be stopping you from having that relationship that you really want? Now, maybe you're already in a relationship and it's going fine, perhaps, but sometimes you come upon something that just doesn't feel right. Maybe your partner says something and you have this feeling within you of an uneasiness or a little fear that, uh-oh, things are changing or I'm not sure what to do. And in those moments, you probably are aware that there's a part of you that has been triggered that is now present in your relationships, and you might be experiencing more of the worry, the concern, anxiety, or fears. Whereas before everything could be going fine, suddenly something is triggered. What's triggered are old beliefs and behaviors that now are coming to the foreground with that fight, flight, or freeze mentality. And what you're going to discover, that old programming is not always doing what's best for you. So I just want you to be aware that as we go through here, you have at least two different beliefs that are operating in your subconscious mind. You can call them positive and negative, healthy programming, unhealthy programming. The healthy you is the you want to be, the you that you know you really are. Happy, healthy, enjoying life, empowered, successful, free, open, loving, vulnerable, balancing masculine, feminine influences, which are nothing more than the doing in the being space, the absorptive space where you're opening up and being creative, and the doing energy is getting out there and taking action. We all are supposed to have a healthy balance of both. Now, as we move through this, perhaps a good illustration is how beliefs influence our life and how we perceive the world around us, not just relationships. Perhaps you've heard, if you've taken some history, in the old days, they thought that when you look up in the sky, what do you see? You see the sun going across the sky. At night, you see the stars going across the sky. So naturally, what belief do you establish by that? The belief that everything is turning around, going around us, and we're stationary. Everything else is moving across the sky. And that was the belief for millennia. Now, there were a few people that said, maybe that's not true, but most people just accepted it, or they didn't even have the time or energy to go into it to care. So eventually, someone discovered through astronomy and through other means of physics and mathematics that no, we actually are stationary, where in reality, everything outside of us is relatively stationary, and we are the ones that are turning. As the Earth turns, it appears that everything is moving across the sky, but it's because we're turning. Even some people that had might have believed the Earth was flat, they never would have believed that we would be turning because it was flat. So everything moved across the sky, and that was their belief. And now suddenly there's a whole new belief, a belief that, well, wait a minute, everything we thought was wrong. Now, the reason I bring up this simple example is that you have within you also these two different beliefs that oftentimes war within each other. It's called cognitive dissonance, whereas one part of you has one belief, another part has another. Now, my training is as a scientist. And as a scientist, you have to be okay with cognitive dissonance, which means you're not sure which idea is correct. You come up with theories and different ideas about things, but you don't really know which one is accurate. So you have to hold both within your consciousness to discover which one might be true, and there could be many in that case. But we're just going to keep it simple and talk about two parts of your mind that might have two alternate beliefs. Now, we talked about the Guardian. This is episode 4 of the Guardian Files. The Guardian was created over those first 16 years of your life when you're open and suggestible, and it's influencing everything that later on you will think, say, do, and feel. A lot of times the input in those 16 years is very positive. You're not going to have many issues. Other times there's some negative aspects. Everybody has negative aspects within them. We are not immune to the negativity of those first 16 years that we hear from parents or siblings or friends or enemies or the environment, and mistakes that we make all the time create these negative beliefs and positive beliefs within us. Again, we're not concerned about the positive beliefs, it's the negative ones we're concerned about. And in those negative beliefs, there's going to be fears, concerns, worries, anger, depression, sadness, loneliness. There's going to be all this bundle of worries and fears that's created in your subconscious mind, your subconscious parent that we call the Guardian, that's going to try to protect you. It's like an overly protective parent. Now, this part of you is based on that old programming, those old beliefs. And just like the old belief that everything was moving across the sky and we were stationary, so too are you going to find that those beliefs of the Guardian are mostly just not true. There never was anything wrong with you. There was never a part of you that didn't deserve that joy and happiness. Yet the beliefs of the Guardian oftentimes run counter to what we know now is truly our healthy self. Now, if you think about as you're growing up those first 16 years, in the earliest years, we come out very open, loving, vulnerable, and creative. It's what we call the inner child. That inner part of you that is open and receptive to life. Very loving, creative part of us. But as we go through life, when we're doing this, things start hitting us, hurting us, where then openness starts to be shut down as your subconscious develops, and it puts away a lot of those old, loving parts of us that want to be vulnerable and open because it's trying to protect us. The Guardian's protecting us so that we're not hurt anymore. And you move through a later phase of your life we call the older child, and we just roughly break it down into 3 parts. There's many other ideas of how people develop, but let's just keep it simple. The older child phase, 6 to 10 years old, is socialization. It's not just you anymore. There's other beings like you, other kids, other children. And you begin to get this sense of, well, how do I fit in? Am I equal to everybody? Do they like me? Do they not like me? Am I less than? Do I have to do things to be liked? A lot of issues happen, and parts of us also get hurt, anxious, and things happen, and the Guardian subconscious starts putting aside different parts of us to protect us. Move into the teenage years. We know those are fraught with a lot of issues as well. The worries, the concerns, issues with sexuality, with dating, with bullying, with hazing, all these things that happen in teenage years. Parts of us also get set aside and protected. They're called disowned selves, if you want to look them up later. By the time we're 16, or moving into graduating from high school a little bit later on, as I often tell my clients to say, how many of your fellow graduating classmates were able to be their true, loving, open, vulnerable, authentic selves? Probably 0. Everyone growing up is affected by these experiences in a negative way that's creating these difficult, challenging, negative beliefs about themselves and life. And because of that, we're no longer able to be that loving, open, vulnerable part. We've got worries and fears and concerns, and we try to hide our issues. We call it a compensational mask that's compensating for what we really feel inside. I can't tell you over the years how many people have come in and said, everybody believes I'm this way, but I'm really that way. Everybody thinks I'm happy and outgoing, but I'm really shy and wounded inside. We all have parts that we keep from other people. Now, this becomes a problem when we enter into relationships. So when you're moving through your life, you're going to find, as we talked about in the last episode, that you can be a certain way on your own and get away with it because you're not getting any reflection from somebody else. When you enter into a relationship, you're going to find that those worries and fears and issues start popping up. Okay, so what do we do about it? This is the essence of what we're going to talk about here today. Mostly what you're going to find is the old saying of opposites attract. Perhaps you've heard of it. And what it means is that you draw to someone who seems opposite you. Now, not always, but oftentimes it's true. And what happens is that, like say earlier on, now not today as much, but earlier on in our culture, as I was growing up, certainly it was true that men were more the powerful, in charge, and in control parts in our society. Women were held back. Women had to find a way to adapt to this paternalistic society, and they would oftentimes draw to them a powerful, protective man to make up for what they didn't have in their life. Men lacking the emotional nature, the loving nature, not everybody, but a lot of us, would draw a woman that has that. The opposites attracting. The controlling, powerful, in-charge man, the absorptive, creative, emotional woman. Now, again, this doesn't fit in every situation, but culturally, I think you're going to find it's pretty much the average way people were. Luckily, things are changing. Women are more powerful, which is a good thing. Men are more open to emotions, which is a great thing. The idea is to have a healthy balance of both, but that's for the next episode we're going to talk about. But for now, just be aware that we draw to us something that is inside of us. We're trying to complete what we don't have. And let's say in the man's case, he doesn't have this connection with this loving presence or this emotional nature that inwardly he knows is powerful and important, but he just doesn't have it. When we draw that to us with a woman, or sometimes women to men, it all depends on the individual, you're going to find that it never really works. You cannot absorb another person's energy. And you get disappointed. When you get disappointed inwardly, you start feeling something's wrong. It's not what I signed up for, and people lead to divorce. That's what happens in relationship divorce, because they're unhappy. They're unhappy because they thought that they could absorb another person's energy. It just doesn't work. It's not true. It doesn't allow us to be whole and complete. You cannot absorb another person's energy to make yourself complete. So we talk about going into unhealthy relationships. They're only unhealthy because we don't know what to do. And what I'd like to suggest is that, as you probably heard in the last episode, there's no mistakes, there's no failures. The person you're drawing to you is exactly what you need to work on yourself. If you're not emotional, you don't want to draw a woman who's emotional. You draw a woman who is more emotive, and then you go, oh, this issue that I am now faced with is what I need to work on. So when you draw somebody to you, instead of trying pushing them away because they're not able to do what you thought they were going to do for you, what I'd like to suggest is you look at that as an opportunity to see what you need to work on for yourself. Now, we talk about codependent relationships a lot of times in relationship work. Codependent relationship mean you're expecting somebody else to give you something that you don't have in yourself. Oftentimes, the young child in you goes to the adult in the other person to protect you, to give you love and affection that you don't have for yourself. Instead of having healthy self-esteem, healthy self-worth, we go and expect it from others. creates a codependent relationship. Again, there's many aspects of codependent relationships, but we're just going to focus on that part right now. So what that means is that people usually find, oh, I'm in a codependent relationship, I have to get out of it. If you take that action, you've missed the opportunity. Now, I'm not saying you stay in a codependent relationship to stay the same, but you need to understand first why you did that. You're drawing the person to you right now that fits for you. And if it's an unhealthy relationship, you're unhealthy yourself. And that's what you want to learn. You want to stay in that relationship just long enough to understand what your issue is, to have you heal. And the ideal is the partner does the same and you grow together. That's great. Unfortunately, most of the time, one person's working on themselves, the other isn't. One person grows beyond it. And then once you've learned that lesson, time to move on. If you're not able to be that open, loving, vulnerable, dynamic person with the other person, if they're abusive or if they're whatever, it's time for you to move on. You're not going to stay in that relationship any longer if it's unhealthy or toxic. But you want to learn why you're in it in the first place. So when you go into relationships with this idea that, yeah, opposites are going to attract, and oh my God, I'm in the same type of relationship I've always been in, don't just leave. Find out why. A part of us is drawing exactly what we need to heal. If we start looking at relationships from that perspective, that we're bringing exactly what we need to work on ourselves, then work on yourself. Go within, find out why, which is why we do the emotional growth work. First, you have to have a healthy self, strong enough so that you're able to work on yourself healthily. Then when you resolve those issues, you're going to find the old relationships are either there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And a lot of it does depend on the other person as well, if they're willing to also work or not. Again, individually, you're going to be complex. You're going to work on what works out best for you. But if you can keep in mind that relationships are amazing, it allows us to see them with this new belief. The stars and the sun aren't circling across the sky because we're fixed. And you don't have to be in a relationship that's unhealthy for you for the rest of your life, or to keep drawing it to you as long as you see relationships from this new perspective. Now, it's not my idea. Other people have the same thing. I'm just happen to be talking to you about it. This idea that we draw exactly what we need to heal is an amazing discovery. Think how wonderful it is that everything you need to heal, to be in great relationships, to move forward, to enjoy practical spirituality is right there in front of you right now. And again, if you use your relationship from this perspective, everything in your life will change. So we're not victims. We draw exactly what we need. It's not the other person's fault, but now it's your responsibility to move forward, to have that energy, to learn, to grow. And this allows you to move to a whole other level, opening up naturally to the life you were meant to live. And then you will start vibrating at a healthy rate. And vibration simply means that's your perspective. That's who you are in that moment. And you'll draw other people like you. And then you're going to find it's not the opposite that you draw. It's someone that's more like you. Someone who has similar interests or similar energies, which is a healthier energy. That is now you moving into a healthy relationship because you've done the work. The idea that we need to blame the other person or blame other people is just simply a victim role that will never work. So please consider that your relationships are the perfect mirror. Whether you're in a relationship now, start learning the lesson of why you're there, what issues are being brought up. If you're looking for a new relationship, do some inner work and find out what some of the issues could be within you. It takes just a little bit of digging, but if you have the energy and the focus and really want to be in a healthy relationship, do some inner work first if you can. Otherwise, I'm here to help you if you want to go more deeply into that. And please remember that in any moment, every day, you can start your life over to some degree. You can begin the process. I'm not saying this is easy. It doesn't happen overnight. We're going to be working the rest of our lives on issues. But they get smaller and less powerful. And along the way, you just get happier and healthier and more energized, and you open up to that, what I call practical spirituality, where everything does appear differently. You see things differently. Things don't bother you anymore. You don't get caught up in other toxic environments. You don't get worried about things that you can't control. See it for yourself. Again, I'm not here to convince you. I just want you to feel that we can change the world. There's many people out there who are doing a wonderful job at changing and helping people now. Better housing, changing, helping people in other ways. That's great. We need more people who are working on a deeper level to change humanity at its core so that these issues go away. We need both. And I'm hoping that you'll be a person who will want to work on the deeper issues to bring up the level of consciousness, to not feel like we're in a hopeless situation, to change your relationships fundamentally at their core so that you can live that life in the now. Until now, you might have been caught up in the old behaviors, the old beliefs, the old worries and fears, but now you have the ability to see your relationships as wonderful learning opportunities that will guide you toward living your life in the now. See you next time.